Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Robin and today we're picking my October TBR. Okay, so I switched up the angle a little bit for this TBR video just so that you guys could see my TBR cart so I could pick the books on camera. So the way that I do my TBRs is every single month I pick out some prompts out of this little cauldron jar. This is completely inspired by Riley from Riley Marie, who I will link down below. I got this idea from her 100%. I just created my own little challenges and I put them into this jar, and then every month I pick 6 to 10 prompts depending on how I'm feeling and what books I pick and things like that. I did switch up the challenges a little bit this month just to fit the spooky season. I am a seasonal reader, so I have a bunch of seasonal books set aside, and I threw in some seasonal prompts. Like I think one is like has to do with murder, and one is like paranormal romance, things like that. Just to switch it up a little bit, make it fun. So I am going to pick, I'm aiming for 8. I think we'll kind of just play by ear and see, I don't know, like how I'm feeling. I am a little slumpy right now, but October is like my favorite reading month of the whole year, so I really want to put a lot of seasonal books on the TBR. I do have some books set aside here. I also have a list of books over to the side for like book clubs and what are they called? ARC copies, review copies, things like that that I do have for this month. I try to keep this to a collection of books that I own in some capacity, whether they're physical books or audiobooks or ebooks, things like that. I try not to put like upcoming releases on here. The one exception being is if I am reading a book for a book club that I don't already own. So there is one of those. If it comes up, I'll put it on here. But without further rambling, let's just get right into the TBR. All right, the first prompt is going to be this one. And this one is a seasonal book. Wow, you cannot see that at all. There you go. Sorry about my terrible handwriting. All right, the first one's to read a seasonal book. So that is the majority of this shelf, as well as most of the things that I have on my list. There are quite a few seasonal things. So I have The Last House on Needless Street here by Katrina Ward, which is the first book that's being released by Torn Nightfire. So that is definitely an option. I also have the Final Girl support group, which I think is the one I'm gonna go for. This is a slasher horror that follows a group of final girls who are the last girl alive in these murders. And I believe they start getting killed off one by one, and you're following a heroine who is just kind of trying to stay alive. I've heard great things about this author, but I've heard his books are very, very scary, and so I'm nervous. But I do love this concept. I love the final girl concept, so I think this is going to be the first book that I put on my TBR. I'm hoping I can find an audiobook for this, because I could use an audiobook for the month. So yeah, this is going to be the first thing of my October TBR. Okay, so the second prompt is, let's go with this one. And this one is to read something that is based on a classic. And I already know what I'm going to read for this. I am going to read Within These Wicked Walls by Lauren Blackwood. This comes out right away in October, I think like October 5th-ish, maybe. But this is a retelling of Jane Eyre, but with demons. All I know about this is it is said to be a cross between The Exorcist and Jane Eyre. And I am kind of terrified, but also really excited for this. I've heard good things about it, like early review things about it already. But again, I'm a big wimp, so I'm definitely scared for this one. Anything that's related to The Exorcist or cult similar to The Exorcist intimidates me, but I'm really excited for this one. And it fits the prompt perfect. Okay, prompt number 3 is, let's go with this one. Oops, I got 2. And this one is to read an ebook. So I'm going to go over to my list of e-arcs and just choose one that I think is good for October. Okay, so for this, I am going to go with Payback's a Witch by Lana Harper. This is an adult romance that has to do with witches. And it follows this witch who leaves her small town. And because she leaves her small town, her power kind of starts to wane. But she has to go back for this like spell casting tournament or casting tournament. And while she's there, she runs into some women from her past. And she learns that all of these women are exacting revenge against an ex who was secretly dating them all. And so she joins this group of women to try and get revenge on this guy. And along the way, she falls in love with a really powerful witch. So it is a sapphic, witchy romance. And I am really, really excited for this one. It also comes out on October 5th. So it's probably a book that I'm going to read pretty early on in the month. It's not a horror or scary book, and I'm definitely going to need some of these interspersed throughout the scarier books since I am not a scary horror reader traditionally, so definitely excited for this one. Prompt number 4 is, let's just mix these up a little. Let's go with this one. And this one is a book that is set in the past. What am I going to read for set in the past? I could do this a couple of different ways. I could either do it like Plain Bad Heroines is a dual timeline, so there are parts of this set in the past. I believe Once and Future Witches is also set in the past. So I am going to put on The Beautiful by Renee Ahdieh. I have already read this book as well as the second book, but the third book comes out in November, and I really want to reread books 1 and 2 before the third book releases. And I read this last October, and I've just been itching for a reread. I know this wasn't everybody's favorite, but I loved this series. I loved the atmosphere, and I think I'm going to listen to it on audiobook again. That's how I read it the first time through, and I think I'm going to do that again, and I definitely will need some audiobooks. This is a vampire YA story. I hesitate to say romance because there is a romance in here, but not really in this first book. But it is set in 1872 in New Orleans, and it follows a girl that comes to New Orleans from France, and she's kind of on the run from something that you don't know the whole story about in this first book, and she kind of gets wrapped up into this magical world where there are vampires. This first book, the biggest complaint about this book is that you are not really exposed to the supernatural elements until right at the end. Like you kind of are, but it's not explicitly stated that it's paranormal until right at the end. Book 2 is very paranormal, very supernatural, but this first book is light on that aspect. But I love the atmosphere of this book. The characters are fun, the plot is fun, so this is going to be the next book on my TBR. Prompt number 5, right? Yeah, prompt number 5. I am notorious for losing count while doing this. So we're just gonna kind of keep picking until I'm done. So let's go with this one. And this is to read a hyped book. There we go. I have a couple of options for a hyped book. Like I have Ace of Spades up here. I also have The Book of Accidents by Chuck Wendig, which I don't know if that is super hyped, but it was definitely like a lot of book club picks and things. So I guess that could be considered hyped. Where Dreams Descend was definitely hyped, and I really want to read or reread this before the sequel comes out. I also have Horrid by Katrina Lena, which may have only been hyped for me, but I was really excited about it. But I think I'm going to put another reread on here, which is so weird. I am not a rereader, but there's so many sequels coming out that I need to catch up on. So I'm going to put Where Dreams Descend by Janelle Angelis on here for a hyped book. This book was super hyped when it came out last year. The sequel comes out October 5th, and I really want to reread this before the sequel comes out, so I need to get on this. I do have this on hold from my library on audio. For those of you that don't know, this is a YA fantasy that is kind of like Moulin Rouge-esque, but with magicians. So the main character was a performer at this house, but she desperately wanted to escape, and one day she flees the house and she makes a mad dash to the city that she could see out of her window. But when she arrives into that city, it's not everything that she dreamed it would be, but she does enter into a magician's competition, and during that competition, she discovers a lot of dark secrets about the world and magic and kind of the world at large. And so she teams up with this other magician, and the two of them start to uncover some of these dark secrets. And the ending is super wild and super confusing, and I still don't entirely understand what happened in that like last chapter, but I am really excited to get back into this world. I thought the writing was stunning in here, and I really loved the atmosphere of this. So I'm excited to reread this and then dive right into the sequel and see see if all of this is explained. So really excited for this one. Prompt number 6. Let's go with this one. And this one is to read a sequel. I have a lot of sequels on my TBR. Part of me part of me is considering just putting When Night Breaks onto this TBR since that is a sequel. I don't know if that's cheating since I literally just put that one on my TBR. So my options for sequels pretty much are not this book, but the third one, which is As Good as Dead by Holly Jackson, or When Night Breaks by Janelle Angelis. I think I'm going to go with As Good as Dead by Holly Jackson. It's the third and final book in the Good Girls Guide to Murder series. I have the third book on audio from PHR Audio, so I definitely want to get to this one right away. I've been holding off for the audiobook for book 3. I know technically it is released in the UK and you can order a UK copy of it to the US, but I am obsessed with the audiobooks for this series. They are a full cast and there's sound effects and all kinds of cool things. So this series follows a teenage girl who in book 1 decides that she's going to solve a cold case for her small town, and along the way uncovers some things that she wasn't expecting about people very close to her. And the second book follows the same characters but a new mystery, and I'm assuming book 3 is going to do the same thing where it's the same characters, new mystery. But one of the really cool things that this book explores is the mental health impact that solving these cases has on the main character. There's kind of a big ending in this book where it hits her really hard and she kind of has this breakdown right at the end. And so I'm excited to see how all of that is explored in book 3 and just see how the whole thing wraps up. I'm really sad to see the series ending, but I am excited to see what Holly Jackson does after the series wraps up. So this is the next book on this TBR. Okay, we have a serious color scheme going on for my TBR. At least for the books that I have physically. So I'm gonna pick at least 2 more. We might go up to 10. I don't know. Like I said, I'm feeling a little slumpy, but I also just want to make like the biggest October TBR. I just want to read all the spooky books. So let's go with this one. And this is to read a book about murder, which as Good as Dead would have been a good one. But I do have other murdery books on here. Oh, I already know which one I'm gonna go with. I'm gonna read All These Bodies by Kendar Blake. I have been so excited for this book. I swear I requested this as an ARC everywhere and got denied everywhere. The little tagline is all I know about it, and it was enough for me to want this book desperately. It says 16 bloodless bodies, 2 teenagers, 1 impossible explanation. I believe this book is set in or does it follow multiple timelines? Yeah, summer 1958, a string of murders plagues the Midwest. The victims are found in their cars and in their homes, even their beds, and they are drained with no blood anywhere. And then I believe that a young teenage girl is found at the scene of one of the crimes, covered in blood, and you are slowly figuring out what happened across these murders. I am so excited for this. It is a standalone. I have no idea if this is I'm assuming it's gonna go paranormal. That would make sense. But I'm really excited to read this book. I've heard really good things about Kendar Blake, but I did not read her fantasy series, Three Dark Crown series. So this will be my first Kendar Blake book, and I'm really excited for this one. Prompt number 8 is, let's go with this one. This one is, oh god, this one is to read a book of the month. So I get book of the month. I don't want to say every single month because I skipped quite a few times this year, but I get a lot of book of the month books, and I have a bad habit of not reading them. And as you can see, I don't think I have a single book of the month selection on here, but I do get a lot of their thrillers. So I'm just gonna go over to my thriller shelf, which is just out of camera shot. So I'm going to see if I can find a book of the month book. So I feel like this is the one that makes the most sense, and it is Survive the Night by Riley Sager. I was supposed to read this, I think, in August, and I have not heard great reviews for this book, And so I keep kind of bumping it down my TBR list. I have loved every single book that I've read by Riley Sager, but just all of the lukewarm to negative reviews kind of got me less excited for this book. I believe this is a thriller that takes place in the 90s, and it is like a locked door because they're stuck in a car. So you follow this girl who gets in a car with a stranger, and she thinks he might be a killer, and that's like really all I know about it. I like to go into my thrillers not knowing a ton, since like how much plot can there really be when you're following just two people driving in a car? But yeah, I haven't heard great things, but I suppose this is a good time to get to this finally. So this is on my October TBR. I do think I'm gonna pick a couple more because I have a lot of books on audio so far, so I am gonna pick 2 more, just make it an even 10. I usually read anywhere from like 12 to 15 books, sometimes more, so it's not outrageous for me to put 10 books on this TBR. So let's just pick another, and this one is a wild card, which means I can just pick any book that I want. And so for this one, I am just gonna get The Death of Jane Lawrence by Caitlin Starling on here. This is the Literally Dead book club pick for November, but this does come out in October, and I do have an arc of it. This is, I believe it is going to be like a gothic horror story, and you are following a main character who decides to enter into a marriage of convenience with this man that she doesn't really know all that well. But the one rule for their marriage is she's never allowed to go to this one manor that he owns. But on the night of their wedding, for some reason, she has to flee to this manor. And when she arrives at the manor, she finds her husband changed. And when they wake up in the morning, her husband has returned to normal. And while she's at this manor, she's trying to uncover all of its secrets. I don't know much else about this. I know this author was really popular a couple years ago for The Luminous Dead, which I heard really good things about. So I'm excited for this book. It sounds super creepy, but also perfect for this time of year. So definitely reading this one right away in October. And what I think is going to be my last challenge, because my stack is definitely getting big, but I have so many more books on the shelf that I really want to read. So I don't know. Hopefully I have an amazing reading month in October. Jeez. Let's go with, oh my god, I have so many of them. Let's go with this one. And this one is to read a paranormal romance. Okay, so for paranormal romance, I'm actually gonna go with The XX by Erin Sterling. Normally I would pick like, these are my paranormal romance shelves, and normally I would pick something off of there. But I'm really excited for this witchy romance. Plus it is a book club pick for Team Steam and Scream. I think that's what the book club is called. Over on Instagram, I will link the Instagram down below for Chip, who runs the book club. But this is Team Steam's pick for October, so I knew that I wanted to get this one on the TBR. This is my one exception to my rule of this having to be a book that I already own, just because it is a book club pick. I already know I'm gonna read it, and I believe it comes out tomorrow when I'm filming this. So I'm gonna pick it up tomorrow anyways. I'll have it physically in time for October. But this is a brand new witchy paranormal romance, and I believe that this is a pseudonym for Rachel Hawkins. I believe she is writing under a pen name for her adult romance, and this is following a witch who curses her ex-boyfriend when they break up. And she doesn't think it's going to cause much damage or anything like that. But I believe he returns, or somebody, like an ancestor returns. I don't remember exactly. Someone moves into town and her curse starts affecting the town, and she has to work with this guy to try and save their small town from the havoc that her curse has started putting on the people in her town. And it is a like enemies to lovers romance, I believe. I don't believe he has any powers. I believe it's just her. And I've been really wanting witch romances. I feel like that is missing in like paranormal romances. Like you get tons of werewolves and shifters and angels and demons, but like where are all the sexy witches? So I'm really excited for this one and for Payback's a Witch. I'm excited for all the witch romances coming out this year. So this one is definitely on the TBR. So my physical TBR has the I chose all black and red books. So what is up with that? So these are all the physical books that are on my TBR. A couple of these are placeholders. So this is actually As Good as Dead, which I have an audio, and these two are rereads. So this is my physical, plus I have a couple of ARCs. So this is a pretty hefty stack. But a lot of these I'm going to listen to on audio, like this Riley Sager one I have on audio. This is an audiobook. This is an audiobook. This is an audiobook. Which is why I ended up adding so many books, because I will definitely need audiobooks this month. I did not mention this at the beginning. I'm going to put these down. Holy cow. But I am participating in a couple of readathons towards the end of the month. For those of you that don't know, Smutathon is coming back for a spooky edition, which I am so excited about. So I will have a TBR coming for that one separately, closer to that time. And then I also think I'm going to try to participate in Camp Ween, which is the like weekend edition of Summerween. That's happening the weekend of Halloween. A lot of ween. But it does overlap with Smutathon, so I don't know how well those two are going to pair together, but we'll see. Maybe I'll be so burnt out on reading sexy romance that I'll need a little break for that, but those two will have TBRs and most likely vlogs coming closer to the time that they are actually happening. I have considered either daily vlogging for Smutathon or for Camp Ween. But yeah, that is it for my October TBR. Let me know what you're reading in the month of October. Let me know if any of these books are on your TBR, and I will catch you all next time. Bye.